Hello, I would like to welcome you in my new video. This video is going to be about how to deal with negative emotions. Also, let me start by saying if you're new here and you enjoy topics from self-help and personal development, you can subscribe to my channel. I post regularly once a week. Now I would like to start with my topic. Dealing with negative emotions. I think a lot of people, when dealing with negative emotions, they maybe would say that they don't suffer as much from negative emotions, or they don't think of this as some kind of problem. But then you see these same people who are used to saying these things, that maybe they tend to smoke a lot when they get nervous, or they tend to eat a lot of stuff and overeat themselves when they get nervous, or they get themselves drunk once a week because they want to release some tension which they have from the entire week when they didn't deal with their negativity, and now they want to feel great finally, and so they get drunk. And it doesn't even have to be such big things. The negative emotions, it's not only when you have to give a speech in front of an audience and you get really nervous, or when you have to encounter some situations where you are scared a lot, or you are angry maybe, or you are in some car accident or something like that. It can be really small, and you might not even think about this as an issue. But I will show you how this can be perceived as an issue, and how this topic requires your full attention, because it can manifest really badly in the long term if you don't deal with this properly. And so I would like to give you an example actually from my life, because I don't think of myself as being too negativistic, although I have my moments where I feel really bad. But I would like to give you really an example from like a regular day when I didn't even think like I had a bad day or anything like that, but I felt a lot of really tiny negative emotions, and I would like to give you these examples so that you could maybe observe this in yourself as well, because negative emotions, they can be really subtle, and you might not even notice that you're having them, which can be really tricky about them. And so example from my life, I actually I needed to catch a train because I needed to get to the city, and so I went for a train, and suddenly I looked at my watch and I saw that I'm kind of getting late there, and maybe I'm not gonna even make it. And so I felt, for like a brief second, I felt annoyed that I'm not gonna make it, and I'm just gonna come late, and I'm not gonna be able to get on this train. And so I speeded up, I walked faster, and I felt kind of nice. Like, I looked at the watch a while later, I was like, okay, I wasn't going to make it, but now I speeded up, and so again I feel like I'm gonna make it. But then when I went and I was at the train station and I was waiting for the train, because it was like a minute or two, because I was there still in advance, again I felt negative emotions that I'm waiting on this train. It was like really subtle. It wasn't like I was getting crazy because I waited. I was so glad that I made it in time, but still I felt like I'm waiting for this train because it was delayed. It was delayed by like a couple minutes, and I was like telling myself it's no big deal, and I like stayed there and it was cool. But still, I had this negative emotion whether I liked it or not, because it was just so subtle and it was so brief. Like my annoyance, it was just subtle. I check my watch and I see that the train is delayed, and subtle emotion comes and tells me like that I'm annoyed. And then I went on the train, and my head actually started hurting a little bit, and there was this kid which was really loud. And so again, I wasn't even angry at that kid or anything like that it was like making noise. But I was a little annoyed when I entered the train, because I was like, well, and now this, like, I have a headache and now there is somebody like who makes noise. And so it wasn't like I would be totally down about it. I was like subtle. It was so subtle that it was just a tiny emotion that just went away like this. But like this, I wanted to give you examples that it can be really, really tiny, subtle emotions which you can feel during your day. You might not even think about them, but they are still there. And even when they are really small and they really like pass really fast, it's an emotion which you get and which influences you, and it kind of expresses itself in your body. Maybe you don't even think about it like this, but I'm gonna have actually an exercise for you, because I really think that emotions can manifest themselves in the body. And so I would like to say that a lot of the times where people deal with negative emotions, what they actually do, if they are really like what I described to you, like little annoyances throughout your day, maybe. It can be anything. It can be also anger. I think this annoyance is just more subtle form of anger, but you can also get angry when you get into your car and somebody cuts you, or you just feel angry because somebody speeds up and stuff like that. But what people usually do when they get annoyed or something like that, or they fear something like a presentation or something, just some negative, unpleasant emotion, when they get into uncomfortable situation, what they do a lot of the times, especially those super positive people, they kind of tend to like roll over this negative emotion and like splash it over with like positivity and telling themselves like positive things, like it's gonna be all right and they're gonna make it, and they summoned their courage and they try to think positively and what are the strong points of their presentations and whatever is ahead of them and stuff like that. And basically what you're doing with this approach, I gotta tell you, I don't really like this approach, because I tried it several times in my life and I never got the best results. And so I was thinking there must be something else, and in fact there is something else, and there is something better how you can deal with these emotions. And I would tell you, the better way how to deal with negative emotions is not actually trying to cover them or roll them over with like positivity, but actually surrender to these negative emotions and be like, okay, now I'm afraid, so just let it come. I'm afraid, so I just let myself be afraid. And actually what's going to happen to you when you approach it like this, it's counterintuitively, I would say, almost, is that especially with fear, when I tried this with fear, but even with annoyance, but I will give you an example with fear because it worked really well, was that when I feared something and I just surrendered and I was like, okay, fear, come here, I want to feel you. And what actually happened was that the fear was getting kind of smaller, because when I surrendered to the fear and I wanted to observe the fear, then it was like, it wasn't intensified. If you're trying to run away from it, suppress it, or roll it over with positive emotions or go against it, it's just getting bigger. But if you surrender and you kind of go with the flow, then you notice that the emotion actually starts to slowly disappear. And if you even try to chase the emotion, like chase the fear and go after the fear and tell it something like, okay, fear, come here, I wanna experience you, then you really are on the really great track, because the fear actually you will even feel it, how it's like lowering itself, because there really is nothing to fear in the first place. And I would also tell you practically how you can do this, because maybe this seems a little bit abstract to you when I'm telling you right now. Well, practically you can do it by thinking about emotion in a way that when you feel an emotion, it's usually it comes together or a little bit after. There are several like theories about emotions and what comes first and stuff like that, but if I'm talking about these specific situations, usually what you notice is that you have some kind of thought in your head. Maybe you traveling to your work and you have this presentation in front of you, and so you have this thought, like maybe you're driving and you're kind of cool, and suddenly you think, oh my god, I have a presentation today, and suddenly there comes the thought. That's the first thing. And then what comes after the thought is a feeling in how it manifests in your body. You can feel the fear. You might start being scared, but also you will feel it, not only with your emotions, but you will feel it as some kind of sensation in your body. Because fear, it usually manifests itself. You can feel it, like I will tell you my example because I feel like it would be useful. But I usually feel fear when I really was starting to observe myself. I've been doing this for quite a while now. I'm still not like an expert on it, but I think it's just so cool that I wanted to share this with you here. And actually, with fear, I noticed that it manifests itself in my stomach. That when I was fearing something like a presentation or something like that, because I don't really like public speaking in front of the people when I see them, I noticed that the fear actually manifests itself in my stomach, and my stomach starts to hurt. It was like when I started to observe that. But after a while I noticed that not only it expresses itself by my stomach hurting, but also it expresses itself by me getting like a heavier breath. Like my breathing was starting to be really heavy and my chest was kind of like really tense. But this was only after some time I was noticing it. And also what I noticed after a longer period of time, not only that it expressed itself strongly in my stomach and in my chest, but also I felt this like tingly feeling in my arms. And this was only really after some time I was dealing with this. I was observing myself. I developed this kind of sensitivity where I felt these sensations in my body which I didn't feel before. Because if you asked me, I would tell you, I think if I should really say where it manifests itself, it would be in my stomach. But after a while I felt like it's also in my arms and my chest. And so I think it's really useful to observe your body when you're feeling these negative emotions. Because I would give you an example why it is better to observe yourself and surrender to it, how it's gonna slowly disappear. It's better than if you would try to go against it and push against it with your positivity. And for this, I have actually a metaphor for you, which I think is really beautiful, and I really like it, and I always think about it when I deal with emotions. And it's this metaphor with a sea. If you've ever swam in the sea, you know that when there are kind of big waves in the sea, maybe it's kind of windy day and you have big waves, then you can try swimming in there. If you try, like if the waves go to the coast and you have a coast and you go to the water and the waves go against you and you try to swim against the waves, you will notice that it's not a pleasant feeling at all. They go to your face, it's very salty, the salt gets in your eyes, it's really unpleasant, the waves kind of splash over your face and it's kind of hard. You're swimming and it's really hard. Unless you really learn how to swim in the waves, how to like come after a big wave and swim like after it and then like swim under the wave, or you will find some technique, then it can get a little better. But still, it's not very pleasant if you would try to just like go your natural way, how you naturally swim. It's not very pleasant if you swim like this against the wave and it like clashes with your face, sort of. And if you swim like this for a while, you will become really exhausted because it's really energy demanding and it's really exhausting and it's not the most pleasant thing. Why I personally do this when I'm like swimming in the sea, I do it because I really love coming back after this. Because when I swim like this and I get a little bit of exhaustion, then I swim back to the coast and it's the best feeling ever, because now the waves, they actually go behind your back and they kind of help you to get to the coast. And so they're kind of behind you and you feel almost like, I wouldn't say like you're flying, but you feel like you would even swim, but you don't even have to swim because the wave kind of takes you and it's the most pleasant thing ever. And like this, slowly the wave becomes smaller and you get to the coast and suddenly you are at your destination, basically. And why is this a metaphor to emotions? Is that if you actually try to beat your negative emotions with positivity and really go against your negative emotions and you try to suppress them, it's the same thing as if you were swimming in front of the wave and it was clashing in your face. This is actually what happens if you try to roll over your negative emotions with positivity. It just will clash in your face. It's gonna be really energy demanding, time demanding. You won't even feel like it's working, and you're gonna be really exhausted. While if you just surrender and you will go like you would like to the coast on the waves, and you will roll with your emotions, you will surrender to it, you will notice that there was nothing like to fear. And also, if you like tell yourself in your head stuff like, okay, I'm ready to experience you, because maybe what you did in your life, maybe you never even experienced fear. You know, if you think about it, maybe you always like kind of were fighting it, and you never just surrendered, and you never tried to feel fear in your body and what it feels like and what it really is. I experienced a lot of negative emotions like fear or anger or annoyance, and every time I get these negative emotions, I'm always like curious now. And so I would really advise to try to feel your negative emotions, even try to chase them, try to really surrender in them and really feel them. And what you'll notice after a while is that they're just gonna slowly disappear, and they'll stop being so sharp, I would say. And why is this important? I will end up this video by this claim, is that there is this fascinating like branch of psychology, and that is called psychosomatics, and it basically deals with the issue about how your emotions can, if you feel, for example, if you feel stressed out for a longer period of time, maybe you will start to have some issues. Maybe you will start to have tension headaches, or you will start to have some kind of issues with maybe your digestion or something like that. And maybe then you go to the doctor, and the doctor tells you that all your tests are fine, and even the doctor will tell you, well, maybe you are just stressed out, maybe you have some stressful events in your life. And so even doctors who would maybe sometimes tell you that you can actually, some of your inner issues which you have, which can be dealing with negative emotions, you can actually start to express them on your body. They start to express themselves on your body in these bad ways. And so if you really learn how to deal with your negative emotions now, when I expect you're watching this, if you are healthy now, and you will maybe asking yourself, why should I even deal with this issue? Then I think this is the reason why you should deal with this issue, because it's better to deal with your negative emotions when you are healthy and when they don't really express themselves in your body, than to try to deal with them when you are already sick and you don't know why, and you have no explanation for that. Because when you are truly sick, you probably will focus more on the treatment, the physical treatment, and not so much on your psychology, which I don't think it's correct. I think you should always focus on your psychology also, because that's really important. But I think this is really really nice, not even approaching this negatively, like, oh, I don't want to be sick, so I will focus on my negative emotions. That's not the message of my video. Please don't understand it like this. The message of my video is that I think it's really fun. I think it's really fun. It can really relieve a lot of your tension. It can bring you so much this like peaceful satisfaction and happiness in your life, which you maybe don't even know what it feels like, because if you never tried this, then it's just gonna, but the problem with this is that it's not gonna appear immediately. You have to focus on it, and you have to develop this skill, I would say, over a period of time, because not every time when you're gonna feel negative emotions you will be in the mood to try this thing. I would try this on this, start with the subtle things like being annoyed with like delayed train or something like that. I would start with these small things and really try to feel the emotion, let it express itself, because then you will start to see how important it is and how it really can express in your body, and how your body and your soul, your psyche, how it's all connected, and one interferes and influences the other. And this is a really great way how to empirically observe this. And so that's everything for my video for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you will try these exercises, because it's really fun, and I think it could really help you, even if you don't have any major issues. Just it could really help you become a master in mastering your emotions and your life, because this is really amazing thing to do, and do this as a hobby, because I kind of do this as a hobby and I really enjoy that. And so that's everything from me for today's video, and I will see you next week with my next video. So have a nice now, and bye.